Hi guys, good afternoon. Thank you to be here. Say hello to the internet. I'm Alberto Cibinetto. I'm an architect and CD artist from Italy. So I hope to speak a very clear English. My English teacher is watching me, so I try to do my best. And I call this presentation environmental because I would like to show you how we do our vegetation and our stuff during everyday workflow. And before going deep with softwares, I'm going to tell you a little bit who I am. I'm founder and project manager with Baumatte, an architectural visualization studio based in Italy. And we help architects, real estate designers, and more show their projects. And we do images. 3 years ago, born a new project called Bau Classroom. And with Bau Classroom, we provided different kind of workshops of V-Ray for C4D and Photoshop in our studio. And it was like a challenge. And 3 years ago, we didn't know where this experience will take us. But after 3 years, we are very proud of our school because we had more than 200 students in our classes. And a few months ago, I became a V-Ray for C4D certified trainer. So our center is now a certified trainer for architectural visualization. With our students, we teach lots of technical aspects of softwares, but we talk about photography, films, art, and everything of which we take inspiration in doing our images. We organize events. For example, these photos are from an everyday event we do in Venice in order to provide our workshop, in order to talk about architectural visualization in a larger way. We do lectures at school, at the university, and we try to stimulate our students to watch to the architectural visualization in more a larger way, not only the technical aspect, but to take inspiration from everything, from everywhere. And we think that we succeed indeed, because our students, also when they go back from our workshop, they want to continue to do rendering also while we are drawing. But these are some images of our last works. And when I started do architectural visualization about 10 years ago, I didn't have a great workstation, of course, and I didn't have great knowledge. So my workflow was more on post-production part. So I think that the first rendering were about 30% of 3D sheen and the 70% of post-production. But now things are changed, and I think that we moved to an everyday workflow with 80% of 3D sheens and 20% of final post-production, final touches. So these images are full 3D sheen, all the vegetation. Today I'm here to talk about it. Fall in love with details. During these years, we watch a lot the reality. I think the photographers want to delete imperfection from their photograph, and CD artists want to add imperfection in their renderings. So for example, a few years ago, these were not possible, some years ago. But now, for example, we took a photo from the internet and some PDF file, and we try to replicate it. And so we have the CD image and the real photo. And in order to do this, we watch a lot details. Because when we model for the first part of the images, we try to replicate as perfect as we can the reality. For example, yes, they are Booleans. This stair is one of the most difficult part in this sheen because it has about 8 million polygons. And to do this, we use MoGraph, of course, because we couldn't do in one operation all these Booleans. It's impossible. So we did a part of the stair, and then we clone it with MoGraph. Another example of one of our last images, we prepared these images for our workshops. So with our students, we do the architectural modeling, the detail modeling, the furnishing, and similar. Then we go in deep with materials and post-production. All about the details in these images, a full 3D sheen. If we go in deep and we zoom in, and we zoom in. Inside the garage, there are the fishing rods. So also, when we model a scene, we try to, as possible, of course, it depends on the clients and the deadlines. We try to model everything because we don't know previously where we want to place the camera, or if the clients, maybe we can go maybe close to the dependance, or maybe we can turn the camera. So we try to prepare our files in order to have everything modeled inside. But talk about vegetation and the softwares we use in order to scattering tones and tones of clones and plants, trees, or similar. Some years ago, we found lab work. I don't know if someone did already use it. Yeah, of course, great. Lab work provides different kits of plants, really good plants, and provided an incredible plugin that goes surface grid in order to scattering your vegetation or other objects in your scene. And I'm going to show you a little bit in deep how it works with Cinema 4D. OK, to make an example, maybe you could try to use a landscape. I increase more the value. OK. To have a bigger one. OK. Oh, too much. OK, perfect. OK, we try to simulate a very simple mountain path in order to show you how lab work and especially surface grid work. So we can make editable, and with the brush and polygon mode, we can select some polygons in order to create a very, very simple path. Don't care too much about it. We can do better. So, OK. And now I create a camera only to have and I'm going to lock it in order to have, OK, perfect. So with a little bit of fantasy, this could be a mountain path. I'm going to split to have a separate mesh. OK. And maybe we can add 4 centimeters. OK. I create a very, very, very simple shader. Oh. In order to have only a color is not so important, only to make a difference for the path. OK. So how Lautberg trees work? If you could also have a demo of a few trees, but you can download from their website. And when you install it, you have here a lab work, and you can click on plants. And they have a very, very simple browser plants. Inside this browser, you can choose your plants. So maybe we could start with the Japanese larch. Before you double-click, you could choose the render engine here and the quality of the model. We try to optimize our scene because the images you saw before, the house in the forest, has about 30 million polygons only for the architecture, and other 20, 30 million polygons each scene of the plants, because we couldn't manage all the surrounding in one scene, so we make some XREF in order to have, for each camera, some part of trees or vegetation or similar. But we can choose the high quality because we are going to make an example. I'm a V-Ray for C4D certified trainer, so I use V-Ray. And we double-click. We have the first plan here. OK. Here. Lab work use convex hull preview in order to maintain smooth your viewport. But if you want to see the perfect geometry, you could choose here, render geometry, and you're gonna see the complex geometry of this tree. Okay. One of the most powerful parameter inside LabWork, I think that is the variant and the age of the plant. Because, okay, I have this plant. I could scattering lots of times. I could scattering in my mesh, but I have only one tree with one kind of this tree. But LabWorks allows you to have different kind and different age for each plant. For example, if I switch from variant 1 young to variant 2 middle age, I wait a second, okay, and I got the same kind of trees but in another age, another variant. If I switch variant 2 middle age to variant 2 fully ground, I wait a second and add the fully ground trees. Okay? It's a very powerful tool because you could have the same trees and you could have different variants and different age for each tree. I come back to the middle age, I think is enough. Another great parameter is the season. We have the spring season as default, but we can choose and select other season, summer, and I have different details in the leaves. I could choose the fall one, and leaves change color. Another great thing is that when you choose a lower plant, you have all the material applied to the plant. So you don't have to choose another material, the switch, or I have to choose the yellow one, I have to replace the material. The material is all placed in the geometry, so you don't have to do anything, only switch the season. For example, the winter one is without leaves. So each plant different, each plant a variant of with the same old age and the season. I come back to the summer, for example, because I want to show you another great parameter, is the leaf density. I know that if someone has already do images with a lot of vegetation, sometimes one of the a difficult way to obtain a realistic vegetation, you have maybe a grid model, but you have a lot of leaves. So you have to start create an editable geometry, and maybe you have to select some leaves with some plugins. You could select a random polygon and then delete. With LabWork, you have only one parameter here. For example, if I want the 20% of the leaves, that's all. So I can play with these values in order to obtain different kind of vegetation with different numbers and amount of leaves. And that's another great parameter for us in order to create a realistic environment. Okay, I come back to the winter one. And I come back, no, before I come back to the skeleton, I want to show you another great parameter of LabWork. Okay, if we go closer to the branches, you could see the subdivision of the polygon is not great. But if you have to make an environment, probably is enough. But if you have to make closer rendering, maybe you want to have more detail on the branches. Here inside the detail, you have a parameter called subdivision. And you can choose, for example, and maybe we have to wait some seconds, few seconds, in order to generate it, but totally different subdivision for the polygon. So if you have some trees, some plants near of your camera, you can increase the subdivision only for the closer plants. I come back to one because I don't want to stress too much the video card. OK, take it. OK, perfect. The tree is very big, but don't care about it because I'm going to show you how to scale it with LabWork. Maybe we could have another plants just to have a different variation. The browser. I can choose which do you want? It's the same. Okay, Korean, Japanese, Korean. I don't know if a good choice, but okay. Convex tool, you can select the render geometry in order to have the entire geometry. And also here we can play with the age and the season. Maybe this is an every. No, you change all with the winter, summer. If you have an evergreen plant, you could see a great variation between the seasons, but it's the reality. So, okay, we can stay with the spring. Okay. Sorry. Can this connect so? Okay. Perfect. How we can clone these trees in our mesh? I use, as I told you, surface spread. So inside plugin, we can file surface spread. Okay. I am surface spread beta tester, so I'm using today the 2.0 version. The commercial version is 1.0 and more, but they are working a lot to provide the 2.0 as commercial as soon as possible. How it works, I take 2, 3. Okay, I go to Convex tool, perfect. Okay, give me a second. Okay. I bring the trees and I put inside my surface spread, and then I have to say to surface spread where I want to have my plants. So I choose surface spread, and here you can find all the parameters of surface spread. So surface spread to work properly need an object or spline in which he could scattering your object. So inside here, I can put my landscape. Okay, they are very, very big. Maybe I can choose and increase the scale on my lambda. Okay. And I reduce the number of the clone in order to show you. Okay. Now surface spread is scattering the trees, but it's the same with all the objects you need, rocks, trees, low plants, similar, books, everything, upon your mesh. So we have an object, the landscape, and we have a max count. Now I have downgraded the default value, that is 100, in order to show you better how it works. But with surface spread, I think that in the scene you saw before, we had about, in total, more than 2 or 3 millions of trees, low plants, micro low vegetation, and similar. So it works very fine, and also with the laptop. Maybe during my presentation, I show you final images with the final path. With a laptop and not an high-end workstation, you could achieve a great result in a few time rendering. So, surface spread. Let's talk about this great scattering plugin. Here, you have some parameters. So, for example, max count now is downgrading 20. With the distribution seed, you could change the starting point, the randomness of the scattering. So, if you have more in our scene, maybe later I show you a complex scene with lots of vegetation inside. We have 10, 20 different surface spread with different plants inside. So if you have different surface spread, you could play with these values in order to do not have the same starting point for the scattering. So this only change these parameters, but it's a fast and a great way to achieve great results, and in order to don't have the same plants with the same scattering. Another, okay, we go in deep with the surface spread. Another parameters you can find inside the editor is the display. Okay, LabWork provides the skeleton preview, and it's great and it's smooth. But if you use plans from other software or other object, maybe you have the complex geometry. So surface grid, as default, use the merged boxes. If I change to full geometry, I add the previous geometry of the trees. So here you can choose from full geometry, merged boxes, points. I don't know if it's a great way or similar. But with the merged box is the fastest way to manage large scene with lot of polygons, lot of details. Another great parameters is the editor weight. Maybe if I come back and say 100 to the max count, with the editor weight, I can, show me the 20% of the clones. So you don't have to come back and decrease the max account, but you could work with the max account you need, and then you play with the editor weight in order to have 10%, 20%, 1%, or 100% as default of your clones. Let's talk about the distribution. In distribution, now we have a lot of intersections between the planes, and it's not great for the reality. In order to control the distance between the planes, you can go in distribution and work with minimum distance. To have a totally realistic minimum distance is not possible because the software would have to calculate the intersection between a lot of branches, leaves, or similar. But here, if you enable the minimum distance, surface grid now is simulate a sphere around the tree with, for example, now 200 centimeters of diameter, and it's great to limitate the intersection of your planes. So this is not a real distance between the real branches, but it's a sphere around the object. And so if you say to surface grid, I want to have 400 centimeters of minimum distance, he put the clones with this distance each other. If I increase the minimum distance and I go to object, I say the max count. I see the max count is 50, but I have only 14 clones because of the minimum distance. So it's a great way to do not have a lot of intersection. Of course, some intersection is obviously you have some intersection you're just seeing, but the eye couldn't see that. But it's great to control this part. Another great parameter here inside distribution is the constraint. Now surface grid is putting the tree all around my mesh. But if I want to say to surface grid, OK, I don't want to have some trees here, or I want to have more trees there, I could work with the vertex map. How it works, the vertex map. Inside distribution constraint, OK, you have the vertex maps. So I could I turn off surface grid, take my landscape, maybe in polygon mode. And inside character, paint tool. Did anyone use the paint tool? No, great. So the paint tool is powerful tools, and you can control the radius of your brush, the strain or similar. And you can paint. OK, I'm not so good with the mouse. I feel better with the table, but a graphic table. OK, if I paint something like this, now when I put the vertex map inside the surface grid, the clones will only here in the yellow part. OK, let's do it. I turn on the surface grid, and then I go inside the distribution vertex map, and I put this. This is the icon for the vertex map. And if I put it inside surface grid, I have this. So I have the clones only where I paint. You can invert with this, and it's so simple. And the greatest part of the vertex map, for one that doesn't use it, is that you can add part and delete part of your vertex map in real time. So if I press Shift, I can add part. Maybe, OK. If I press Command for Mac user, I'm not a Mac user, but if you press Control in Windows, you can delete clone from your Vertex map. And this is in real time. So if you maybe make the first Vertex map, and then you go in deep with your camera, you have to choose, oh, I want to have more clone here, I want to delete some clones. With the Vertex map, in real time, you could do it. So it's powerful, powerful tools. So maybe you can go in the top view and control. OK, I turn off the surface grid and say, OK, here in the path, I don't want to have trees. But here, I want to have trees. Here, I want to have trees, and more. So I really recommend use the Vertex map in order to obtain realistic result. Inside the constraint, we have also other parameters. I'm going to show you some of that. For example, in geofilters, did anyone use surface grid here? Only one? OK. Geofilters. I simply love the fractal breakup. Let's think about a grass. Let's think about a garden or a park and clovers. When you have clovers, if you want to find 4-leaved clover, you have to watch you have to take care about the density of the clovers. My friends say this. I don't know if it's true. But in the real life, you couldn't have the same density on the clovers everywhere. Maybe you have some part with more density, some part with less density. And the fractal breakup control in a random way this. I'm going to increase a little bit. Oh, maybe 100.5. OK. The fractal breakup, if I increase the value, gives a random distribution and random density of our clones. So maybe with a low vegetation and small vegetation is better because you can see better this function. But if you have a geometry with a lot of clones inside the geometry, and then you use the fractal breakup, maybe you have more density here, less density here in a random way. So I really recommend to use because it's a great way to achieve great result and great environment. I'm gonna maybe I come back to here. I want to have OK. That's 300. 800. OK. So the fractal breakup changed the distribution in a random way and the density of your clones. Maybe I could decrease the minimum distance. OK. And the fractal breakup do this. Without fractal breakup, with a lot of fractal breakup. OK. I now talk over of fractal breakup, I promise you. Another great parameters, slope. For example, if you have to scatter an object in a mountain or in a climb, some realistic object in the reality, like stones or similar, maybe fall down from the mountain. Trees not. Trees still remain in the mountain, but maybe rocks or similar fall down. And surface grid has a function in order to control the slope. So if I go here and enable the maximum slope, surface grid is delete, is remove the clones that are put in a surface that has more than, as default, I have the mouse upon 45 degrees. So if I increase or decrease this value, I say, OK, everything that is upon a part of the mesh that has more than 30 degrees, please don't show me. And it's very powerful because you don't have to, OK, I have a climb, I have some rocks or similar. I don't want to have in the highest part in the where I have more degrees of slope, and surface grid can do this with only one parameter. So you can control the minimum and the maximum slope only with two parameters. OK, let's go in deep with the performance filter, for example. Maybe I move to the Top view, OK. Here I have my camera. Maybe I'm gonna move it. OK, I go inside the camera. I'm in the middle of the clones. Give me a second. OK. Here, I'm gonna lock. I don't want to have some strange angle here. OK. Maybe we can. OK. If I reactivate surface spread, maybe you can see the camera cone here. OK. We have a garden. We have a landscape or what more. I'm here, and I have my clones also outside of my camera cone. And this is not great for my viewport, not important for my rendering. And I want to cut the clone in the camera cone, for example. Surface spread can do this. Here, in the performance filters, here, we have to say, OK, I use a camera for my rendering, which is this camera. I take the camera, and I put inside here. Nothing happens, but we have to check another parameter. Because the parameter we are interested in is here, and is the camera cone. So if I activate it, I have this. So take a look at the clone. OK, great. So surface spread now shows only the clone inside my camera cone. And you have a correction angle. And I really recommend you to do not leave to 0, because you could have some holes in the side of the camera cone. So if you use the camera cone, please set is in, I think that 2 or 3 degrees is enough. So you have a little tolerance over the camera cone, and it works well. So I really recommend you the camera cone, because for the viewport, but also for the rendering, it will be a very grateful, very powerful parameter. Because, you know, time is money. A rendering depends on time, so rendering and money is. Another great parameters inside the performance filters, because I told you, OK, surface spread could manage tons of clones without too stress, but we try to optimize our machines every time as possible. So inside the distance from camera, there's a parameter. OK, if I enable the distance from camera, now I have to increase it. OK, maybe I take a very quick measurement of the distance. So we are OK. So I will say I want to cut the clone after a distance, because when you have a great environment, maybe you have to take care more about the foreground. The background is less important, because it's impossible to have the clones everywhere. So with the max distance, you could say, OK, I want to have my clones only 1,000 and a half. So surface spread after 1,500, cut the clones. I have no clones. Further, if I increase it to 3,000, OK, I have all my clones. And another great parameter here is the edge. The edge decreases the number of the clones after a distance. So if I say, OK, after 1,000, I would have less. Maybe I could increase the. Oh, come on, give me more clones. OK. And this I could decrease in. OK. We have to decrease the minimal distance in order to have a lot of clones. Maybe we don't care about intersections. And after Too much clones. But with these parameters, you can surface spread decrease in a percent way the number of the clones, because when you have a great landscape, enormous environment, maybe you want to have more density in the first meters, but after 10, 20, 30 meters, you don't care about the number of the clones. So with the distance from camera, you can control. Now we worked with the max distance, but always work with the minimum distance, but I think it's more interesting work with the maximum distance, but it's the same. Okay, come back to, woo. Okay, go out from my camera to show you other great parameters of surface spread. Sorry. Alignment. Inside alignment, you can choose from different way to scatter. We work, I think, 8% of the time with no position only, because you say, OK, my trees now is strictly perfect inside, but with some effects I'm going to show you, you can create a rotation and some variation. Also, you can work with the normal. OK, we have to choose the axial rotation, so maybe we can put inside the null object the surface, the Lauber tree. But with the normal, the clones follow the normal of your mesh. So for example, if you have also always a mountain on a climb, you will have you want the grass following the slope. You could work with the normal mode alignment. There is also target, static, but we work a lot with now position only, and with the grass, we work often with normal target. Let's go in deep with effect. I think one of the most interesting part. OK, static offset. For example, if you want to be sure, OK, the plugin works really great. It's a really great plugin. But if you want to be sure that your geometry, your plans, or similar there is a compenetration between the mesh and the object, you could decrease, for example, in the y-axis -3, and now I could increase to show you 30. OK, so with this parameter, I can have a static offset in the axle, the y-axis. And for example, is a very common, when you have a park, when you have a garden, I want to put some dead leaves upon your grass. Maybe with the static offset is a great way to work, because you don't have to create another mesh to clone only the leaves, put inside the leaves, and then increase the height of the mesh. You can work with the offset, and you are able to say, OK, my leaves, I create a specific surface spread for leaves, and I give 10, 80 centimeters of offset, and my leaves were upon my grass. Random alignment. OK, here you can control the alignment of your clones. So it's great in order to have variation, because you have an intensity, so a strength of this value, and then you can control separately the single axis. So the Z here, the y-axis, Z, and the X, of course, 360 degrees, of course, as default. And then with the tree, maybe we could work with a little angle for the other axle and a maximum angle with the X in order to have a completely total rotation of our clones. Best scale. OK, I have decreased this parameter because 100 was the trees were too big for my mesh, so I can control the scale. Oh, sorry, 300 too much. 30 is better. OK, I can control the scale of my tree. And OK, perfect. The random scale. OK, now I have different kind of trees with different range, with different season. Thanks to Lauber for this. But I want to have a differentiation also for the scale. So if I increase the intensity here, I could see that there is a variation of how much? 20% each axle. So 20%, 20%, 20%. Maybe I want to have more differentiation in the y. I could increase these single parameters. It's not a problem. So with these, you could have a lot of variation in rotation and also in scale. Scale by vertex map. For example, if I choose my landscape, I could paint quickly another. Give me a second. Character paint tool. Here's an example. Don't hate me. OK. And if I come back here, and inside the vertex map, I put this. Sorry. OK. I could have a variation also with the vertex map. And I can control it in painting. So where I paint, I have a differentiation, and the other clones still remain the same. So I could work also with the vertex map here. I have a lot of parameters here. Another, I don't know if is important, but I will say the color. Now, surface spread, if I put inside 1, 2, 3 objects, give automatically different color each object. But I could have, for example, constant, and I can change here. It's not a great parameter, but I want to show you. And if you have really bad days with rainy outside, you could have more funny with a lot of colors random in your plants. Each plant, one color. OK. Perfect. And can here control with some effectors. But to be honest, we work a lot with these parameters. We could achieve great results with these parameters. You have to take care of what? Differentiation of the plants and differentiation of the low plants. Take care how the low plants, the small vegetation, the grass from the path became higher or similar. So you have to watch always the reality. In this scene, OK. Give a second to the video card. And I'm going to show you something. OK, I created this scene with this laptop. It's not an high-end visualization. Of course, it needs a few seconds to generate the preview. OK. We have a similar situation with the path. OK. Give it more seconds. And here you can see we have different kinds of spread. And I'm going to show you. I hope I have translated. Yeah, I've done. OK. So environment, low plants and trees. I really recommend you to use layers. Because when we have gray landscape here, we have some layers for the architecture, of course. And I think 10, 20 layers only for vegetation. Because environment inside low plants, inside leaves, low trees, trees background, trees for reflection beside the camera. Don't forget the trees beside your camera because we take a rendering and we have the glass with no reflection. So you have to surround your architecture in order to achieve great result. So here, this is a path. Don't take care about the repetition. We only use 6 or 8 K textures. It's a very big landscape, so don't take care about the repetition. I'm going to show you. We have to regenerate it. OK. One kind of trees. Give a second to the video card. OK. Sorry. And the other trees. So we had 3 different vegetation, lab work, of course, and then the lowest vegetation, low vegetation. I have to, OK. I tried to show you the entire geometry here. I hope we don't have a crash. OK. And if you go inside the surface grid and say, no, convex hull, render geometry. OK. It works great. If you are scattering objects from other software, other kind of objects, please make proxies. Because with proxies, you could have more or less half heavy files. So I come back to the convex hull, OK. And I say to surface space, show me the merged box. OK. So I don't want to bore you with all the kind of plans we have here. OK. Maybe I turn off this. I would like to show you this. OK. Another kind. So another kind. So this is the highest value. Please don't crash. I'm stupid. OK. So there are a lot of microvegetation. And with the microvegetation, in order of their dimension, we have to work with, OK, about 10,000, 30,000, 300,000, and more. So, OK. I came back to my... With Laboratory, if I'm a relay user, despite of your render engine, you have to not do anything. You have only to set your scene with a camera, with a light, and then take a rendering. So I close the viewport, OK, for the tree. OK. And I take a rendering. I set only a simply V-Ray sun, a camera, and a fog gizmo. Who want to use V-Ray for rendering? No one? Oops, I did a mistake. OK, but also with Cinema 4D, you could create a gizmo in your environment in order to have a 3D fog. So this scene, it took a little bit to start, but I have to show you something else. I have a 3D fog, so it took some minutes in order to create it. But it's not a problem. I come back. Whoa. I come back here. You can, of course, download some demo plans, and also you have 30 days of trial of Surface Grid. So if you are interested, please download it and try it. These are a couple of images we did. These are all Laubert trees and plants. This is the house in the forest. This image was for an American client, American client's architect, and this project is in the middle of a forest with a small lake. So we have to create the most important thing. Also, the architect told this because the most important thing is the environment. Yeah, it's important the architecture. They project this house, but the environment is very important. So the night version. So this is a quick viewport to show you the number of the clones. This is the scene with the vegetation without the other material of the architecture. And this is the final images. In order to do this, we have to create different XREF. I have to tell the truth. It's not possible to manage. I have two Xeon with 128 GB RAM and 8 GB of video card. But you have to manage this kind of machine. Maybe it's great to create proxies and to create some XREF. Because the client wants a camera from here. Can we move here? Can we move here? And maybe you have, I have no mesh. I have no clones here. Please, can we return to the first one? This is an ongoing project for our workshop, so don't take care about the material. The house is white. But all the environment is created with surface grid and both Laubert plants and other plants. So this is the viewport. We have about 10, I think, 10 different plants only for the grass. And then the tall grass, and then the dead grass, and then the different dead grass, and the different dead grass, and more and more and more. So this is the viewport. If you have a great video card, it doesn't crash. You have to have a lot of patience in order to do this. And you have, my advice is to watch the reality. The answer is outside your window. So in this scene, this is the house. So the architecture have an enormous environment of clones outside. And this is the final images that we are still rendering. It's a laptop, so I don't know where it's arrived. But this is the scene. You can do this in 1 hour or a little more. That's the path with the displacement material, of course, in order to have more details. Low vegetation, micro-low vegetation. Pay attention to the micro-low vegetation. They make the difference. Because you can have here and then tall plants. You have to take about rocks, of course. I didn't show you. Maybe I could show you. It's rendering. Surface sprayed also make rocks. So you can have parametric rocks. You can change the dimension or similar, and then you can scatter, of course. So these are okay, are from surface sprayed. And I have, of course, this some glare raft from V-Ray, and this God light is the gizmo I have told before. So if you want to try, if you didn't try before, the gizmo for fog is great. So take a look at the rendering. Oh, so this is the rendering that is going. Oh. And it's calculating the, for this, I set the environment fog and on 32 subdivision, but when we do the final image, maybe 64 is a great parameter, a great value. And here we have only to wait to see the magic. Of course, I didn't forget my first rendering, so I still love Photoshop. There are no great rendering without Photoshop. It's impossible. Mir, Luxigo, everyone do Photoshop. So this is the raw rendering after the calculation. Maybe the noise disappear. But yeah, come back. Oh. With little post-production, some light or fakes in order to create the wow effect is enough to obtain. I think that without these softwares, and of course, Cinema 4D, in order to create environment, in order to modeling, is simply amazing. You could create a mountain and a path with a brush tool and 2 meshes, 2 materials, and that's done. Cinema 4D is an incredible software in order to do this. I'm in the architectural visualization about 10 years. I started when I was a student at university. I started with a small laptop, and I found the Cinema 4D, I think that's 8 or 9. I started using V-Ray with the V-Ray 1.0.4. And so now, with the improvement of the software, you could achieve great result with less work. OK, this is our contacts, our email. We provide workshops, great workshop, certified workshop. If you need information, please feel free to contact us on Facebook, Instagram. I have to say thank to my right arm, Alberto, that support me and model everything in my machine. And I think I have finished my time, more or less. Thank you so very much.